Okay, so we are what? Okay, all right. So we're starting Tehilim Kufiyah test, which is not only the longest perek in Tehilim, it's the longest perek in all of Tanakh of anything, right? Because it is an octuple acrostic. Yeah.
Not to be pedantic. Sorry, to be pedantic.
Oh, okay. Is there another word not?
No, I was just gonna say about the longest perek. Isn't like the whole like body of Mishlei, like maybe like 3 like real pesukim?
Those don't count.
Okay.
Yeah, Tehilim are real.
Yeah.
The Mishlei pesukim are not real.
No, I'm saying not the like device that the Christians made. I'm saying like what like will be like chapter 10 to like 29. Isn't that like broken up into maybe like 3 or 4? I mean,
this is longer.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah, pedantic is fine, but that has nothing to do with it. Okay. Yeah. So right. So it goes through every letter of the Aleph Beis, and it's 8 pesukim per letter. Okay. And I actually started learning this with Isaiah on Shuos, not intending to teach it because I just, like Isaac said, this is something that looks like it would be good to get into at a certain point. We figured, well, this is about Torah, so like we might as well learn something about Torah. And so we have a theory about how to approach it. The theory is treat each group of 8 as its own perek. Okay, so we're gonna at the very least do Aleph. Okay, that'll be the for this week, I guess, and we'll see what happens next week. Okay, but the question is, should we first, before we even translate it, there is an overview that's necessary that we're gonna do from the Radak. Maybe it makes sense to start with that. So let's do that. Just to have, even though it's not going to give us any knowledge about the content here. Okay, so the Radak on the, where is it? Left column? Yeah, left column says like this. Okay, Hamizmor Hazeh, who nichbad meod. This is a very revered perek. Okay, V'chibro David al Shmona Aleph Beis. David composed it based on the Aleph Beis, right, alphabetically. Ki b'chol os yesh bo shmona pesukim. Every letter has 8 pesukim, right? So this is a theory of the Radak that we've seen before, that he holds that anything that's alphabetical means it's very important. So if it's 8 alphabeticals, then it's like super important.
Why is it important?
Did we come up with a theory of why he holds that alphabet? We came up with our own theories about what the alphabetical thing is, but yeah.
Well, I think he was saying that that's the tool that David used to convey that it's very important.
Right, but do we get why alphabet implies importance?
I don't like backwards alphabet.
Yeah, like our ideas are, our idea that like in, isn't that, don't we do that in,
it's a very common.
No, don't we do that in Brachos Kriyas on Shabbos? Is it backwards or is it regular?
No, I think it's in order.
Okay, it's in order. We do something backwards somewhere.
I feel like,
Yeah, anyway, whatever.
This is long.
It's very long, yeah. It's very, very long, yeah. That's I know I've told the joke before, but I'll say it again. It's like one of the few. I guess I don't know if it's a Chabad joke or whatever, but I guess Chabad has a minhag to say the perek corresponding to your what age you are, like at every day of the year.
Older, so your year of what?
Right. So the joke is like, why is it that people never make it past 120? Because they say this every day of the year and then they die. It kills them.
176, like.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So like, for example, we've had ideas about the Aleph Beis that whenever you want to try to convey the fact that you can't do, like that something is beyond your reach, you use the entire alphabet to show that like you're pulling out all the stops, you're exhausting all the options.
Oh, we said about Ashrei.
Yeah, we said that about Ashrei, right? But that's not the Radak's theory. That was just our theory, and I don't know if that's going to apply here. Okay, so then he says, but this is the part that's the most important part. The whole pasuk yesh bo, each and every pasuk has the following terms. Okay, derech o Torah, o edos o pekudim, o mitzvah o amira, o dibur o mishpat o tzedek, o chukim o emuna.
Oh, wow.
Okay, there are 11 terms. Depends on who you ask. If you ask Meiri, there are 12, and there are 3 different ones. He has like 2, whatever, But Radak holds that there's 11. Okay, and strictly speaking, by the way, it's not each and every pasuk. There's one pasuk that doesn't have any of them. Okay.
What does that mean? Each pasuk.
Find it. Each pasuk has at least one of these terms.
Like terms, or it's like a theme
of terms. Yeah, and in fact, we're going to see in a second. It's an anti-theme, or it's not.
It'll literally have one of those.
It'll literally have one of these terms. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see it in when we read through our first 8 of it.
Yeah, I guess 1 plus.
1 plus.
Not.
Yeah, at least 1, right? Yeah. Okay. The Elah Hamilos Haim chelkei kol Torah. These, did you say midos? Or did I say milos? Good, thank you. I think I said whatever. These milos are all the components of the Torah. Okay. Now, Ve'ata ivar eleh Hashem was kadesh shelo et start levarim b'chol pasuk pasuk. Says now I'm going to explain each and every term so that I don't have to explain it when we get to the pasuk. Okay, so this is much more efficient.
It's annoying.
Well, if you're doing it to make noise, then it's annoying. But if you're just temporarily opening it to get food, okay, fine. Yeah. Some people like making noise with things. So yeah. All right. There you go. Okay. So we're gonna define each of these now. Forewarning, okay. Some of these are very, very familiar categories. Other ones are not familiar. Okay, and I don't know who has familiarity with what, so feel free to ask questions. So Torah techunas hamitzvos heyach nasos. Okay, you tell me if you can find a good English word for this. Okay, I'll just translate it and you'll tell me the English word. Torah is the techuna, which is the structure of the mitzvos. Heyach nasos, how to do them. Kamo, for example. Torah hachatas, okay, the Torah of the sin offering. Torah ha'asham, the Torah of the asham, of the guilt offering. V'chein shar mitzvos.
Form.
So form is nice.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that?
Prescription.
Closer.
Foundation.
No.
Is it like a legal structure?
Structure.
Instructions about how to.
Yeah. So what I would say is procedure. Okay, procedure. And I say that specifically because not all mitzvahs are introduced this way. This is the procedure of the chatas offering.
Yeah.
This is the procedure of the asham, which means many, many different actions that you do in order to fulfill the thing. Okay. So in other words, you would not use this about tefillin. Tefillin has a structure, it has a form, but doesn't have a procedure of step-by-step process. Okay.
Weird order also, like Seder.
Yeah, Seder is also good. Yeah. So it's very weird. I mean, we don't use this term a whole lot. Okay, maybe you could use it a lot, and also if I just said, hey, David Melech wrote like a perek about Torah, what do you think he means by the word Torah, right? You would say teaching, instruction, learning, but procedure is just a very, very narrow thing.
Could you say instruction?
Yeah, you could say instruction. You could say instructions. You could say instructions. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's actually also good. That's probably the word that corresponds most to the particular etymology. Yeah.
Okay, and this is definitely like the more concrete instruction. It's not like it's like philosophical ideas or something.
Correct. Yeah. Can I borrow this for a second?
Yeah.
Do we use it in this week's parsha? Do we use it by Sota? Anyone know?
So I was having a discussion with someone about
or Torah Nazir. Do we use it by Nazir? Hold on, I'm just because it's in the parsha, I feel like I have to mention it.
Definitely not.
Zos Toras HaNazir, Asher Yidro Korbanot L'Hashem. Yeah, so it's a procedure about how he finishes his Nazirus and stuff. Yeah, what were you saying?
I was having a discussion with someone about the phrase Torah and mitzvos.
Yeah. Right there, it's I think instruction or teaching, right?
Yeah.
Not procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I ask a methodology question?
Yeah.
Weren't the pesukim and pesukim, Christian inventions?
You missed this. We had a whole discussion about this. Yeah. No, the pesukim are from Moshe in the Torah, and the pesukim are from. No, but it was established by the authors.
Yeah, these are real breaks.
Yeah, pesukim are real.
Yeah,
but pesukim generally are not. But in Tehilim, the pesukim are real.
Meaning what?
Meaning that they have beginnings and ends that were established by the authors.
Okay.
Yeah, and you could tell it's evident. Like Mizmor, Shir, Chanukah, Schneeweiss, L'David, Mizmor, L'David, Lam Natzech, L'David. Shir Hamalos, Hallelujah. Yeah. There is a machlokus whether there are. So we hold there 150 pesukim in Tehilim. There is a shita that there's 147, I think.
Oh.
And then the Septuagint, I think, has 151.
Yeah.
That's true.
There's 151st.
Yeah. So the what do you call it? The only place I know of the dispute is I think those who hold that there are fewer than 150 hold that the first two pesukim are one. Yeah, I think the Meiri also holds 147, but generally speaking, it's very easy to tell where the beginning is. Okay, so that's Torah. Okay, next, derech. Okay, hu tikun hamidos. Okay, so derech is midos. Oh, and you know what I just found? Are those books down here? Anyone know where Ruth's book is? He already shelved it again. Oh no, I have it on my computer. Hold on, not the whole book. I have. I just saw something in Ziegler. No, not the meme that I made. That's something else. Where did I put it? The meme was a Better Call Saul meme.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so she points out, Yael Ziegler points out, this is just a fun fact. So there's this midrash that says, it's on a pasuk about Naomi and Ruth going baderech to Beis Lachem. And so the question is, why does it have to say baderech, right? Like that, how else do you go to Beis Lachem? Like through the forest, like, you know, like of course you go on. So she says that the word derech, hold on. Yeah. So it says, no, I'm not finding it. There are only so many pages here. This is an important fun fact that's going to support what we say here. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So it says that, yeah, is there? I'm looking at a footnote though. Oh yeah. There are fewer than 20 passages that employ the expression derech in Tanakh with its literal meaning, namely to walk somewhere. Okay, going on the derech, and it says, see, for example, Genesis 30, blah, blah, blah. One could easily apply metaphoric reading to these phrases in these verses as well. So in other words, according to her, I haven't done the research, most of the time going on the derech, walking on the derech is like referring to like midos or like Mishlei, yeah, right. Yeah, so like what we say, like you know, like off the derech, you know, we don't say on the derech as much, but yeah, so it's tikkun midos, perfection of midos. Okay, mahu Chanun afatahei chanun. Just as God is gracious, so too you should be gracious. Mahu racham afatahei racham. I know he's not using the right word. Yeah. No, this is an important diuk that Rambam, when he quotes this chazal, says it's so much easier to do telepathy when you're here.
Yeah.
He says. Mahu nikra chanun avata heye chanun. Mahu nikra racham avata. So just as God is called merciful, so too you should be merciful. Because if you say it this way, it kind of implies that our mercy is the same as God's mercy. Just as God is merciful, you should be merciful. You know, but in reality, God is just called merciful. But that's just an analogy for us. Okay, but we don't need to get pedantic. But yeah. So in other words, but it's a good point though. So derech means perfection of midos. Okay. All right. Next, chukim. Hima mitzvos shlo nigla taman. These are the mitzvos whose reasons are not revealed. Okay, obviously all the mitzvos have reasons. That's why he's saying that they're not. The mitzvos are not. The reasons are not revealed. Okay, mitzvos asher ne'emar behem mitzvah. This one's the one I understand the least. Okay, mitzvos are the ones that are called mitzvah. Kigon shiluach tmeim. That's another one from this week's parsha. The sending out of the tmeim from the camp. V'hafaras nadarim v'kiyotz behem. So, for example, it says in this week's parsha. Thank you. It says, "Sav es bnei Israel v'yishachu min hamachane kol tzara b'kol zav." Command bnei Israel and send out from the camp everyone who has tzaras and every zav. Okay, so just as you use the word sav.
Like, is he saying mitzvah like a tzivoy? Yeah,
tzivoy, yeah. Okay. Now again, all mitzvahs are mitzvahs, right? But there are ones that says command bnei Israel, and apparently those are the ones that are called mitzvahs. I don't understand what that category is. Like, I mean.
Oh, you're saying like what categorizes as tzivoy?
Yeah.
Versus like right. Like
I mean, the fact that you use the word sav, that's nice.
Saying like in a mitzvah, like in a mishpat, like whatever. He's not saying like maybe you should do this.
Right. It's not a suggestion. Exactly. All of them are commands. Yeah. Right. For example, I'm sure there are many mitzvahs that we say asher kiddishanu b'mitzvah sav v'tzivanu, even though it doesn't use the word sav in the pasuk.
But isn't that just a general question? Not a question on, but a question about the Torah's etymologies.
Well, I guess my question is like this: is given the fact that all Taryag is mitzvos, why is he limiting the use of the term mitzvah in Tehilim to that specific Torah B'Ksav way of presenting it? And what is that Torah? What, assuming that he's correct that when Torah B'Ksav presents it that way, then that's its own like component.
It is.
What is that category? Yeah.
It is kind of like a. I would assume really in most pesukim where you see that you don't really need to have said that word.
Yes, right.
So I don't know why.
Yeah. And what we would really have to do, which we're not going to do, is we'd have to look through all the times when it says that and then come up with a unified theory. Yeah.
I have a 5-second theory.
Okay.
That it's things that have like an extra like imperative to them. Like it's
a reasonable theory.
Yeah. Like, let's say I say like, you should grow your own mushrooms. Like that's like like if I that's more in a way of like advice, even if it's something where it's like you definitely should do this.
Yeah.
It's not like the same as saying grow your own mushrooms.
Right,
you know?
right, correct. Yeah, that's a good theory. That's a good
Yeah.
working theory. Okay. All right. Mishpatim heim had. Oh, so there's another one. You would have expected, given his definition of chukim, that he would say mishpatim are the ones where the reasons are revealed. No, mishpatim heim had dinim shebein adam lachavero. They are the dinim between interpersonal dinim. Now, dinim here, I think he does not mean like any interpersonal mitzvah. He means specifically like in law, like a tort law, like in
the sense of like a shofet.
Like a shofet,
Mishpat.
mishpat, exactly.
Civil law?
Civil law, yeah, exactly. So, for example, lashon hara is bein aram l'chavera, but that's not here. V'havta l'recha kamocha is bein aram l'chavera, but that's not this. That's not dinim. Okay,
Yeah.
so like choshen mishpat stuff. Okay, eidos heim mitzvos asher heim edus v'zecher. Okay, testimonies are the mitzvos that are a testimony and a memorial. Kamo Shabbos u'moadim tzitzis u'tefillin v'kiyot. So these are the ones that are testifying to historical events, right? Like Yetzias Mitzrayim and creation and Midbar, all this other stuff. Pikudim heim hamitzvos asher haseichel more aleihem. Okay, this is another interesting one. Pikudim, which I always forget how to translate. Precepts. Okay, yeah, that's how our school translates it. Precepts. Yeah. Pakad literally does mean to recall or to remember, or to store, like a pikadon, right? Something that you keep. So hema mitzvos asher haseichel mora aleihem. Oh, that's where I got it from. Shem kipikadon u'kanaragados b'lev ha'adam. So they are the mitzvos that the intellect of man indicates, which are like a treasure or something that is stored in the mind of man. So you could call these, I guess, intuitive mitzvos. Okay, things that like don't murder, don't steal, give tzedakah, honor your parents. Right?
Interesting because Pekude starts.
Yeah, we usually call those mishpatim.
And those are not like.
I know.
Those are not.
Yeah.
Like,
No, right.
Like, those
Yeah.
are not.
The Sheish Vargaman
Yeah. Again, it's strange where he gets these terms from. Like, it's possible. I mean, this only pushes the question back. It's possible he's deriving these from how they're used in this perek, as opposed to how they're used in the Chumash. But then that just pushes the question onto David. Yeah. All right. Tzedek hu tziduk hamitzvos ki b'tzedek ne'amru. Okay. Tzedek is the justification of the mitzvos. Right, not tzedek hamitzvos, not the righteousness of the mitzvos. Tziduk, like tziduk hadin, right? Like when you justify it because they were stated with tzedek. Okay, that doesn't seem to correspond to. That's not a component of Torah like these things. Like I don't even know. I mean, what I would say means just based on the words is like when you take a mitzvah and you try to make sense of it.
Like the Tom?
That's what I would think also. Yeah, the Tom.
Yeah.
But he's referring to it as a verb, the justification of the mitzvos. Like an activity that you do to justify it. But the other thing, up until now, it's like there's a pie chart of Taryag, and like each one falls into at least one of the categories. This does not seem like a component of Torah. Yeah.
Just looking at the footnotes, it seems like he said some of these things he is drawing from later in the perek. Some of them he's drawing from like Chumash. Or
Okay.
Also
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that I think these definitions, a lot of them overlap.
Yeah.
Like, let's say like you might have some things that are mishpat that are intuitive.
Right. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay, then now speaking of things that don't fit the category, the Zechar, Dibur, Va'amira. Oh, I know what he's talking about now. For Tziduk. Okay, we'll see it in a second. Sorry, Dibur Va'amira, him klal l'chol mitzvos. So Dibur and Amira are all the mitzvos. Okay, that's easy. The Zechar, Dibur Va'amira, gam kein l'havtacha shihtichu hakel. Dibur and Amira also refer to God's promises that he makes, okay? V'zachar gam kein dibur lekinoi ritzono bibrias ha'olam. Okay, Dibur and Amira also means it's an analogy for God's will in the creation of the world. So like laws of nature. Okay, so yeah.
Mine just says, oh no, never mind.
So
I skipped the line back.
Yeah. So in other words, you got three things. It's all mitzvos, it's all promises, and it is the nature of the world. Okay, and I guess that's because we describe God creating the world through speech. Okay, Asar Marmarim, etc. Okay.
Well, actually, no, yeah, it does say. I think it just says like the dibor is a kunoi for Ritzonah B'Brisel. He doesn't say that about
fair enough. Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Yeah, that could be.
Why are there two of them?
Because of that.
The same meaning?
Apparently. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess because he sees that those are repeated, but and that they're similar enough. I guess, except for according to Isaac, Dibur is used for Brias Olam, whereas Amira is not.
Do they have? Is there?
He's telling you how things are done in this
In the perek, in the perek, in this perek, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, in this
not
perek.
in like Machshavah.
Yeah. He's defining how they're used here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would
Right.
non?
But I'm saying he might be getting it from.
Isn't it by Omer Elkira?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Would non-Malbim people say there's a difference between Dibor and Amira?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, so non-Malbim people?
Non-Malbim people.
I think people would say that there are connotations, like Chazal. Well, I mean, everyone knows that there's connotations to words, right? I mean, strictly speaking, Vaidaber is to speak, and Amar is to say.
I would definitely use those two words.
Yeah.
There's
there's examples.
To someone versus I said this to someone. Spoke seems always to me more formal.
Also verb.
Yeah, there's also you don't need an object with Vaidaber, right? You know, like he spoke to him. Whereas Vayom, no, actually, I don't know.
I said this versus I spoke.
Yeah, I said
spoke is
XYZ.
simply
Well, I think you would say by Omer, if you refer to like what you held.
Yeah,
Like in the Gemara,
Right.
And he said,
Right.
not talking about the
That's true.
that he
Yeah.
spoke.
So there are differences. Yeah. Okay. V'chein emuna is kiyum devaro bebrias olam. Emuna here not meaning belief, but here meaning firmness, right? Because that's what the word emuna literally means, right? To make that which is firm. Yeah. That's where the word emuna is related to, according to the Radak in the Sefer Shirashim, it comes from MS, like that which is firm, you know.
You can really teach Torah on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the word he's saying that emuna is derived from MS, and MS, and the reason why the thing they have in common is that they're both firm. Yeah, like what's Vayhi Yadav Emuna Ad Bo Shemesh, Moshe's hands were firm until the sun came. Yeah,
I think in Ne'eman means like
trustworthy. Yeah,
it's not
right.
like,
Okay, so those are the terms. Now, in case you think that this is going to be an exercise in like using these terms, nope. Okay, we thankfully, and this is why I chose the Radak as our go-to. Thankfully, we have the same situation here that we had in another perek. Okay, we'll go with perek that was.
It was 145.
Yes, in Ashrei, correct, 145. V'kasher zachar kol ele hashemos kol echad b'pasuk ein dato hashema hu lavado elo zachar ha'echad hu adin lachirin. Okay, mercifully, when David mentions one of these in a pasuk, his intention is not about that term alone. Rather, he's mentioning it, and the same is true for all the other ones. Okay, in other words, they're interchangeable. All of them are interchangeable in this pair. So this is exactly what we had with Ashrei, right? There were 10 terms, and you could swap out any one for any other one, which makes our task a whole lot easier. Okay.
But they mean different things.
They do, but you'll see why, because he says, let's just finish the paragraph. He says, V'yeshbo pesukim. L'famim zachar shnayim b'pasuk echad. Sometimes it mentions 2 in one pasuk. Okay. V'yeshbo pesukim amar be'es tzaraso b'varcha o be'es tzaros acheros. Some of the pesukim he said at a time of his tzara, and when he was fleeing, or other tzaros, b'chibro zeh hamizmor, and when he compiled this mizmor, kol elu hapsukim bo, he included those pesukim in it. So he didn't even write this all at one time. Okay, I was like, Lefisha tzara hi haisa matrida oso milis asik b'torah b'chachma. But he included it because that tzara was preventing him from being involved in Torah and chachma. So let me just restate what I was going to say. Then Eli had a question or point, and then Chaim. So this is, he's going to say what the Mizmor is about in a little while. He's already alluded to it, but because the Mizmor is about all of Torah, then the things he's saying, like about one part of Torah, can equally apply to another part of the Torah. In other words, whenever he says a pasuk about mishpatim, he's not trying to teach you about dinim bin an l'chavero. He's telling you about like Torah in general, and he's just like, switching it up to make it interesting. Okay, so it makes our task a lot easier because we don't have to pay attention to the specific terms. Yeah, Ellie.
So why would David specifically choose the words he chose if they could be used interchangeably?
Right. So the same poetic thing, exactly. Yeah. Like you could say that he just needs to switch it up to save it from being boring. Because if he said mitzvah and everyone, it would get really, really boring, you know. But it's like if you ask any poet, let's say you have a poet who's writing a love poem, and he uses the term like beautiful and fair, and you ask him, well, why did you use beautiful here and fair here? So sometimes he would give you the answer that it fit into the what do you call the things? The rhyming scheme, or fit into like the rhythm, you know. But sometimes he would say like it's a synonym, and like I used it. Right. Yeah. I used it already.
Yeah.
What was that?
You aren't exactly synonym.
No, but in other words, if you're writing about like Torah and all of its components, like let's say you're writing a poem about color, like, and not about individual colors, you're just writing a poem about like the phenomenon of like what?
Green. There was a guy who wrote a poem about green.
Oh, I was thinking about all the colors.
Oh.
Let's say you're writing a poem in praise of color, right? Mm-hmm. And like you just need to use a bunch of examples of color throughout. Like, you know, there's not going to necessarily be a reason why you use one color here and one color there. There could be, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if this is a methodology question or just I don't know. But when the Radak, or I guess other Rishonim say things like, oh, this is why it's different in different places because David was like, yeah, time of Tsar. Is it like a Masorah, or is that like a svara of his? Like, how does he know that? Is he just postulating it?
So sometimes I guess there's like, you know, very clear textual evidence. Mm-hmm. Like either it is referring to something that you could tell because you know the story, like it's telling the story, or like certain common phrases. Other times it's just a theory. Like we saw some pesukim where it's like, where does he get that from? That this is about Machshavah, has nothing to do with Machshavah, you know. So like, I think it's and I'm sure a lot of them from Midrashim. But then you just push the question back: how do they know? Yeah.
Yeah. So I know he's saying that there are synonyms and you can be used interchangeably. Is it possible to like go deeper and like find a connection that we're like, you know, let's say you use the terms beautiful and fair.
Yeah.
Because they have slightly different connotations.
Yeah.
You could just be using them interchangeably to like use different.
Yeah.
Or there could be like an extra element where, like, let's say go back to here. Like, let's say it uses the term mishpatim.
Yeah.
How like this thing applies like even more clearly with like din bein adam l'chavero.
Yeah.
But it also applies to us.
Okay, so I'll answer that question now. I was going to answer it later, but I'll answer it now, which is that I think the way that we're going to approach this is we're going to take a 3-tiered approach. Okay, and we're only going to prioritize the first tier, and the other two, depending on how much time or interest we have, we'll go into it as need be. So the approach we're going to take here is the same we did in Ashrei, which is we're going to translate it, but then treat all the terms as swappable, which means that the only thing that we really care about is like more the predicate than the subject. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know, so if he says, you know, blah 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 about Toros or about Eidos, we'll kind of ignore that. We'll just focus on the blah blah blah. Okay, the second tier is if we can take whatever idea we get and say, like, is there an additional element that's brought out from choosing this particular, even though it could refer to all of them, we'll do that. And that's kind of what we do in Mishlei when there are two synonyms. Like, let's say like this, well, okay, this morning it's not clear if it's a synonym or not, but like madon and din could both mean arguing, but we keep an open mind, like maybe this one means like fighting with someone and maybe this one means like internal strife or something, I don't know, you know, so we'll see that. The third approach I'm not really interested in going into unless like we all get on board with it, which is a Malvin approach, which is specifically this term, you know, like where's the idea saying, like if it says Eidos, it means specifically Eidos to the exclusion of all others. Okay, so that's, I think, going to be the most productive way to take it.
Yeah, okay, that's how it was.
Okay, yeah. Good, yes.
If they're basically interchangeable, then why do we just go through all this effort to explain them?
Yeah. So apparently, that's a good question. Apparently, he does feel like it's important for you to know that there are these components of the Torah. The only weird thing is this seems like a weird list, you know, like in other words, let's say you see like, you know, sometimes you see a list and you're like, okay, Chacham Ben Chacham says, "Ma ha'edos v'chukim v'mishpatim." That's a nice, clean distinction, right? The chukim are the mitzvos. The reasons are hidden, and you wouldn't have done them if God didn't command them. Mishpatim are the ones where the reasons are evident, and you would have done them even if God didn't command them. And then the eidos are the ones where the reasons are evident, but you wouldn't have done them if God didn't command them, right? Like it's evident what the purpose of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim is, but you wouldn't have done that if God didn't command it, So like that's a nice clean distinction. I get that, Or let's say like in even Chukim and Mishpatim, like that's a nice clean distinction, or the 14 books of the Mishnah Torah, that's a nice clean distinction. This is it clean? It's not so clean to me. Yeah. So in other words, my assumption is that he thinks that it's important for us to know this because like there's ideas in this division itself. I just don't see why he would divide this way. But the other possibility is the second tier in what we're saying is that even though he's saying that you don't have to get so caught up in the terms, you can appreciate nuances if you understand what the individual terms mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had that question also, but then I had like a piggyback question of, is it true that these are synonymous? Like the ideas he's expressing with these things are definitely not all synonymous, right? I mean, when he says that derech is tikar midos, and then he says that edus, maybe that's not a great example.
We'll find out. We'll find out if they're interchangeable.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We tested it out for the first group and it worked. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on what you're saying about them.
Yeah.
And like, if you say like that, his eidos are beautiful and the like Torah is amazing. Obviously those are very general things.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that's very specific, it's like it can very well be interchangeable.
I'll answer it to you right now, even though I think we're going to see it inside. If he's writing about how all he wants to do is to be able to be involved in the Torah, so then, and he's just indiscriminate about which parts of the Torah he talks about, then the essence is just he wants to be involved in Torah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, if that's the...
That is one of the theories. Yeah. Okay. Now this next part I'm going to kind of rush through because the particulars don't interest me and they're kind of outdated, I think. But I only want to read through it because he's going to kind of talk about what the theme of the whole thing is. Okay. So the Ata Yesh Lishol. Now you can ask, Lama Chibur HaMizmor Hazeh Al Shmona. Why is this written with 8? Okay. Lo al Pax Lo Yasar, not less and not more. Ki b'mukomos acherim shezachar l'cheshbon shiva o asara inam davka ela l'sach cheshbon. So when it mentions 7 or 10, that's not davka. It's just like a nice total. Okay, Kia Shiva, like we mentioned elsewhere. Kia Shiva, Bavur Shiva Hagalgalim, Shivahem Shiva Kokove Lechas, Shemashamshim Ba'olam. 7 is obviously because there are 7 planets which run the world. Okay, right. Hence the outdated. What
planets are there?
8.
Well, what's the status of Pluto these days?
No, I think it's
They demoted because they remoted it and then they demoted it again.
They did.
Yeah.
Small word.
No,
Okay.
it is just not the way I was using it. Yeah.
Anyone hold it?
We'll say 8 and a half.
8? Does that include this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
What? I include this one.
We gotta find
I
this
don't
out.
think he was probably.
He was including Pluto.
I mean, we're
8,
really
see, what are the 12 planets called?
What are the 18 planets?
So which one's the Gadol Hayom?
That's not a planet. That's a sphere. These are the Kokove Lechas.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, but Shiva Hagalgalim.
Yeah, the Rosh
Oh, Shibahem Shiva Kokove Lechas. Okay, fine. So 7 spheres and 7 planets. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Chen Koime Ha'olam Holchim Shiva Shiva. There's also 7 days of the week. We all know this. Okay.
And yet there's been many calendars over many eons that have 12, 10.
Oh, this is
5.
we have the right calendar.
Okay. Kichini Yitzir Sa'olam. Okay, yeah, that's what he says. Yeah. Kichini Yitzir Sa'olam Shisha. Yamim Uvashi Shabbos. Okay. Chen Asara Lapishu Sof Kol Cheshbon. I think 10. He's saying is like a numerical whole. Okay. Ibn Ezra was obsessed with the number 10.
Metric system.
Metric system. Yeah. What was it?
Circles are like the most perfect shape.
What does that have to do with 10?
So 10 is the most perfect.
Oh, you're saying
number.
yeah.
It's the same idea.
Yeah, but if you ever want, if you like love 10, read Ibn Ezra. I think he has like books about the number 10. I think like multiple books. He loves 10. Okay. About Shmona, lo nimsa b'shum makom shu l'sach ha'cheshbon, elishu cheshbon davka, im kein lama kiven david l'zeh cheshbon. So he says 8 is never a whole number. Okay, not a whole natural number or a whole mathematical number. It's a specific number. But where do we find this number? Okay, so here's what he says. Okay, now I mean we find it in Torah in some places, right?
I was talking about number 8.
Mila,
Miluim,
Chanukah, Shmini Atzeres, right? Yovel, right? depending on how you count Yovel, right? Fine, okay, whatever. But he doesn't give any of those answers. Here's what he says. It seems to me, kilfisha mizmor zeh kula holech al mitzvos umishpatim v'chukim v'adomim lahem v'kulim v'doim al seder al derech seichel v'chachma. Okay, so this is the important point, that since this whole mizmor goes by way of the mitzvos, and all of them are built upon intelligence and chachma. V'hadrachim shebehem niknis hachachma umidos adam hamyuchasim ilahem shiva. There are 7 paths through which a person acquires chachma. Okay, v'aleim nemar chatzva amudeh hashiva. That's the pasuk that Rabbi Ginsburg named Amudim after, I think, or if he named it, then that's what he named it after. That there are 7 pillars of chachma. V'him, what are they?
Islam.
No, keep past the softs. Is that what they're called? No, it's not Kleenex.
The elegance.
The elegance, yeah.
Elegance. What's it called? Elegant essentials.
Okay, so what are they? 5 senses. Shamiros Adam Yuchasim Alehem, Shapir, Ko Shapir Osam Hakacham Rabbi Shlomo Ibn Gavirol. Oh, now we can have to look this up. I don't think people call him that, but they call the Shim Ben Gamliel that. Okay, so he says there are 5 senses. 4 of them are really ascribed to Chachma, and they are Kiba Einayim Yireh Adam B'Sifrei Chachma. With your eyes, you read Chachma books. With your ears, you listen to teachers. With your mouth, you speak what you learn and you teach others. With your hand, you write svarim. Okay, what's missing? The nose. So we got to explain the sense of smell. This is ascribed to Chachma. This is a weird one. The 2 nostrils are close to the 2 cavities of the brain that are posterior. Is that whatever? Anterior. Which one is anterior? Is anterior front?
Yeah.
Okay, anterior. Right. I think. Yeah. Shabem kohatzir, which is where your imagination is.
What is that? True?
I don't know.
Why does? Okay.
So he's saying it's not like you use your nose to imagine things. I mean, you can, but most of what we do for Chachma is not like that. Only perfume developers, use olfactory imagination in their day-to-day like Chachma things. Maybe trackers. Yeah, right. A little I know. Yeah, chefs also, I guess. But he's saying that it's associated with the imagination because it corresponds to that part of the brain. Yeah.
Just a brief question on how we're defining Chachma here. It seems to be related to personal relationships, whether it be reading books from other people or learning from teachers, as opposed to other sorts of experience.
So it might be the reason why he's saying that. That's a good point, right? Because he doesn't say you use your eyes. You hear the question?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think so.
What was the question?
Wait a second. I had it. Chachma. Oh yeah, relating to other people.
How do you define
What's the question?
Chachma, basically?
He seems to be defining Chachma with a relationship to other people.
Yes. Okay, good. You see, this is because this is the 3rd time you were talking when someone else was talking, so I told a high school teacher to move on you. Yeah. Yeah. I've been keeping count. Yeah.
That's number 1.
So it's possible that he's using the definition of Chachma as received knowledge, which is if you're talking about Chachma and Bina, Chachma is received knowledge and Bina is knowledge you derive on your own. So what?
What is received knowledge?
From other people, either from a teacher, from books, from hearing. So not stuff that you go out and find and discover on your own.
My Bina could be your.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if it's something that I got from someone else, then it's Chachma to me.
Sure. Doesn't Shlomo Noah use Chachma interchangeably between that and?
Yes, he does. Well, that's the thing. Sometimes he uses it interchangeably. Sometimes he uses it as received knowledge. Sometimes he uses it as seeing the consequences. Yeah, but I'll tell you, it's all going to collapse when we read the next couple. Okay, it was a good question given what we had. Yeah. Okay. So then he says, "Vadir Hashishi hu hagadas hamagidim." This is v'hu davar shelo yada be'achad hachushim aval hu davar bar etzlo. So okay, this is a hard category to get. So he says it is things you get from people, from what people tell you. It's something that you don't know through one of your senses, but it's clear to you. Okay, he gives an example. Funny example. Someone tells you that Constantinople exists in the world, Okay, you've never been there, you haven't seen it. But everyone who's gone there talks about it, and there's no one who they don't contradict each other about its existence. Then it's clear that it is like this. So this is like common knowledge, is what we would call it, I think. Okay, like you know how like when you're writing a paper for college, you don't have to cite a source if it's common knowledge. Like you don't have to so-and-so was born in Washington, D.C., which is the capital of the United States, citation. Like you don't need to say that, So it's common knowledge, right? So there's another kind of knowledge that you get from people, what people tell you, which is not common knowledge, but I guess what we would call like expert observation or expert testimony, So like if you were to ask someone like what bird species are in New Hampshire at this time, and we only get one person who that's for you. We only get one person. Yeah, I think so. We only get one person who tells us, but we know that he knows his birds. So then that would be in the same category, even though it's not like from a lot of people. Like it says, like God says to Eov, Hayadata is ledas ya'ale sala b'chola ayalos tishmor. Basically, God interrogated Eov about some obscure species. Okay, so
this is really all secondhand knowledge.
Yeah, I wouldn't say all secondhand. I'd say all secondhand knowledge with emphasis on knowledge.
Yeah.
Like Kaufman, all secondhand Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he would say it's raining outside is in this category.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Even though it's secondhand knowledge.
So not to throw out fallacies. I'm not saying he's being
to contrary, you want to throw out all your fallacies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's being fallacious, but just to put it categorically in my mind. The first one about people is ad populum, and the second one is appeal to authority. Basically,
if you were talking about fallacies, then yes, right. But in point in fact,
obviously, right. Correctly appealing to the population and correctly appealing to the authority. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Similarly, things that you test through methods of chachma in the creations. So this is like scientific method. Yeah. Okay. Even though that was not developed in his time, but like they had ways to test stuff. Like, right. Yeah, but I think like Bechina, like you subjected to a test, like you put you mix two things together and is this salt or is this sugar? Well, I guess that'd be taste, but like whatever, you test things and see if they react.
You use a literal litmus test.
Litmus test, yeah, the real one, yeah.
You want to know if you can walk a mile in an hour? So you walk a mile, it takes less than an hour.
There you go, exactly, yeah. But okay, so we have what was number 6 was common sense knowledge, right? Or commonplace knowledge, and then 7 was no. Oh, there's all 6. There's all 6. Yeah, 7 is iyas hasechel v'yediaso, the seeing of the intellect and its knowledge. That's like things that like logic and math and derivation with your mind. Okay, he doesn't even give examples for that. Okay. There's a one remaining way that is not of the ways of Kaufman. Now, I do not want to get bogged down in this. Okay, even though there's a lot to get bogged down on. Veina seichel mor alav, and the seichel does not indicate it, meaning on its own. I mean, you can't know it just with your mind. Elishu amud gadol v'yoser chazak l'chol balei Torah, but it is very tremendous and strong for people who are balei Torah. V'hi Kabbalah, and that's the tradition. Okay, the received tradition. Shechayavim anu lahamin ba al kol panim, that we are obligated to believe in without a doubt. Uba yis amis b'nafshasenu v'yis chazak b'libosenu, and through this it makes firm and true in our heart. Ki Moshe Rabbeinu olav shalom kasaf haTorah mipi hakel yisbarach, that Moshe wrote the Torah from God. Now here's a good example. Okay, the chidush ha'olam, the creation of the world. Umaser Bereshis, the work of creation. The inyan ha'avos, the existence of the avos. All the miracles that our fathers saw in Mitzrayim in the Midbar. Kriyas Yamsuf, Hayardim, Mamad Har Sinai, Vamidas Chama, Lavana Yeshua, Oshar Niflos, Aksuvas Aidei Neviim. Asher Lo Ra'u Einenu V'Lo Shama, Osnenu V'Lo Yore Aleinu Aleim Aseichel V'Lo Nisnu Livchon. So this is secondhand knowledge in a different way, right? But it's not exclusively what we call secondhand knowledge, because Like we know about Har Sinai and the miracles in Mitzrayim because of secondhand knowledge, because they were easily observable public events. Ma'aser Bereishis, we don't know that way. We only know that because it's vouched for in the Torah, which we got at Har Sinai, So anything that we received through, you'll see in a second, we'll call this Ki Hagadas HaMagidim. Yeah, so you can't derive it from your seichel and you can't test it. Ki Hagadas HaMagidim nitna livchon aval ze lo nitan livchon. You can test things that people tell you, but you can't test this. But it is verified to us from books, which are passed on from generation to generation. This tradition is firm by us and implanted in our minds. And it's as if our eyes saw it and our ears heard it and our intellects testified about it. Yoser, and more so, your senses can lie sometimes, and your intellect can make a mistake sometimes. When the ways of proof are not clear. I'm going to finish reading the paragraph just to get the full picture. But this received tradition, which is received from generation to generation, no one in any of the nations denies it. Also, all the Sfarim that are written about it from the rising of the sun to its setting, meaning from east to west, none of them contradict each other in these matters. Therefore, the tradition is verified without a doubt. To the point where the tradition to us is like stuff we know with our own minds. And that's why he composed it along the 8 methods of getting knowledge, as we've explained. Okay, yeah, question.
Not limited to like Jewish theological.
Okay, so this
is a type of knowledge, and that's just worth most readily evident.
All right, so this.
Can I give just an easy
example?
Yeah. Like family history could be this sort of thing.
Okay, yeah. All right, so what bothered me the most when I read this is there's one word that if you mention this, it would snap into a clear category, and he doesn't mention it, and it seems like he's not talking about it. Masorah would be closer. I would say if he said nevuah, then I'd be great. Okay, that'd be good. And in fact, the Rambam says in his letter on astrology, which is another 3 clear categories, he says there's only 3 things you should accept, 3 sources of knowledge: your senses, your mind, and reliable tradition from Nevi'im. Right? I think he says Nevi'im there. So the problem here is he doesn't mention Nevuah, and he seems to be including, first of all, stuff that he's saying like all nations are writing books about, and that none of them deny. And it seems to be like, I'll give you an example of this. I think, unless there's stuff I don't know about, I don't think they have evidence of the Trojan War. Is that true? Right? I think like they know about it from the Iliad and the Odyssey, and like there's reason to believe that those are longstanding oral traditions, that even before Homer wrote them, but I think they don't have evidence, like archaeological evidence of the Trojan War, So to me, I think that's the category he's talking about. Like this was before critical history, like where people like were aware of biases and like incomplete information and stuff like that. So like I think he's saying like stuff that you rely on from any tradition, not just like Masorah from Sinai or Masorah from like Chachamim. Sounds like he says like all the nations of the world, no one writes stuff that contradicts this, So I don't know. So that's like a little not really reliable. We don't view that as reliable nowadays, But we would still say the same thing about our Masorah, from Sinai. Yeah.
That's just one of the Kuzur, like with his whole Sinai proof.
Yeah.
It's like half of it is based on that principle.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so that is the intro to 119. Okay, now let me ask you. Let's put this to a vote. What I think would be very good for us to do is we just translated the 8 pesukim now and then worked on it next time. Okay, good. Yeah, so we can translate it now just to start rolling it around. Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay. And I deliberately did not read anyone saying. I mean, I gave my like teaser about like what the perek is about. But you could tell from what he wrote something Torah, something Chachma, right? But yeah. Okay. But there's someone who says it much clearer. Okay. But let's translate. Okay. Ashrei Tmimei Darach HaHolchim B'Torah Hashem.
Praiseworthy.
Okay. So praiseworthy or /happy, right? And we never found a good one word that encompasses praiseworthy and happy. Like the description we gave was like, if you are virtuous and your happiness stems from your living in line with virtue. Fortunate, I don't like, because fortunate, first of all, implies fortune, like luck,
you got something.
and you got something, and it also has a connotation of wealth or success as opposed to like human flourishing.
What about like fulfillment?
Fulfillment is closer, but fulfillment to me is too related to desires, and desires can be subjective.
I feel like flourishing actually is a decent word.
Yeah, but if we use the word flourishing in a way that brought to mind happiness, that's why like the real term is like eudaimonia, but no one uses that word because it's a Greek word, but there's no good term in English for that,
Eudaimonious is the friend.
Yeah,
I feel
eudaimonia,
like we don't have that. Sorry. I feel like we don't have that concept in
I know,
at least in modern Western society.
Yeah.
Virtuous happiness.
Yeah, virtuous happiness. Yeah. So unfortunately, okay, we'll just say praiseworthy happy. Yeah. Okay. Tamimei Dara. Tamim is specific term. So people do use tamim for perfected, like Noach was tamim haya b'dorasav, or complete.
Is it pure?
Pure is close. So if you I'd say two. Pristine is actually better. Okay, so there are two connotations of tamim. If you're gonna go with the perfected route, like tam, like ish tam or tamim tiyeh imid Hashem l'kacha, then it would be like whole.
Yeah.
Okay. Are those? This is gonna be weird. Who are whole of path? Okay. Whole path. Yeah.
Wait, this is related to the word tom, like simple?
But simple is not really the way it's used in Tanakh. Simple is like people
it's that word.
Is that word? Yeah. So the other way though, tamim means without blemish.
Yeah.
Okay, which is why pristine is good. Okay, so or without blemish in their path.
So like one who's consistent in their philosophical way.
So that would be an interpretation of a type of blemish. Yeah, you could say that it means that there's no inconsistency. You could say it means there's no bad midos. Yeah. So that's part of what we have to figure out. Okay.
That walk in the Torah of Hashem.
Yeah, that follow. I'm gonna say follow the Torah of Hashem. Okay.
The instructions, right?
What?
Torah uses Torah's
instructions. Yeah. Well, this is unclear, right? Well, is Torah Hashem one of the terminologies or terms, or is Torah Hashem like with a capital T?
Well,
I'm
we
not
already
sure.
had Derech in this one. So,
we're Yote.
we could,
Yeah, Derech was one. Okay. Ashrei Notre Edosav B'chol Lev Yidrashuhu. Praiseworthy happy. Yeah.
Praiseworthy happy.
Notre Edosav. Notzer chesed lalafim. Preserve. Are those who preserve his testimonies. See, now this is a good example, by the way, where it seems like testimony is appropriate to the word preserve. Why?
Because it's a remembering.
It's a remembrance of past events, but Radak says you could swap it. Yeah. On his Instacart. Yeah. B'chol lev yidrashuhu.
With their entire heart, they investigate it, seek it out.
Yeah. So with their entire heart, they seek. So I also translated it as it, but apparently it's him. They seek him. Oh. Okay, with capital H. Yeah. Okay. Af lo falu avla. So af is hard to translate.
Is notes related to notsri?
You asked that, right? I think notsrim for Christians is related to Nazarene, which is a proper noun. I don't know if Nazarene is related to this, but I think we call them notsrim because they're the followers of the Nazarene.
Calls him Han-Notsri. That's what he refers to.
Yeah. Okay. Off. How do you translate off? Even.
Lo falu.
It could also be certainly. Okay. Certainly lo falu avla.
They do not.
Done. Right, it's past tense.
Done.
Is it
Yeah, Avel.
like iniquity?
Yeah, iniquity, injustice. I'm gonna say injustice. I think iniquity is I usually do with the olive one. This is kind of arbitrary. Injustice, bidrachav halachu.
In his ways or ways?
Ways.
They walk.
They
Go.
walked. Yeah.
Walk.
Okay.
I got
It could, by the way, remember we could still have a rule. You could play fast and loose with the tenses here. I'm just gonna start it off with the literal translation.
Yeah.
Okay. Ata tzivisa pikudacha lishmor ma'od.
You commanded your
Precepts.
But it's one of the
I
words.
get another word for that.
Yeah.
your precepts to be to guard a lot,
To guard, yeah,
To be
exceed,
greatly
let's say,
guarded.
yeah, let's say exceedingly.
muchly.
Yeah, it feels like it's not good Hebrew. Lishmor ma'od, you know? Yeah, to keep a lot. Yeah, to keep greatly. Achalai yikonu drachai lishmor chukaka. So achalai is a hard one. So they say one lashon is like vaychal Moshe, like I beseech you. Okay, so I beseech. How's our supposed to say it? Is that I beseech you?
My prayer.
My prayer is okay. Others say like, oh, would it were, like expressing like a longing. Okay, if only. Okay, say if only. Yikonu drachai. Yikonu is like hamechin mitzadei gaver or hachana. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hachana?
Lachin. Yeah.
Oh, to go.
No. Hachana like for shiur.
Oh, this is
Prepare.
Prepare. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hachana for
My-
sure was with a chet.
Nope.
yeah. My
That's
path-
not a word. Hachana with a chet.
Yeah. If only my path were prepared to guard your.
Yeah. Chukim. Yeah. If
Yeah.
only my path were prepared, or I beseech you that my path be prepared to guard your statutes.
Chukecha is more is plural.
Yeah. Chukecha with a yud.
How
Yeah.
would you say that singularly? Your statutes?
Chokecha.
Chokecha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I will not be embarrassed when I gaze upon all.
Yeah. So is this the first time that you realize that we have learned these 8 pesukim? Because I have no recollection of learning these 8 pesukim. It must have been 2 years ago in September.
Yeah, I guess we did like discuss. I think we learned them like briefly.
We did them briefly, yeah. Then I will. All right. So why does Isaac know this pasuk?
Rambam.
Yes, this is the crowning pasuk of the entire Mishnah Torah.
What?
Azlo evosh be'abiti al kol mitzvosacha. Then I will not be ashamed when I gaze upon all your mitzvos.
At the beginning.
That's what time. Yep.
Yeah, meaning in the beginning of the Mishnah Torah.
Yeah,
Well, at the beginning of every Rambam book, it says B'Shem Hashem Kol Olam, and then the beginning of the Mishnah Torah, it says this pasuk. Azlo evosh be'abiti al kol mitzvosacha.
So it always seems like around.
So what's, I mean, without going into ideas, what's shot about why the Rambam
He's
uses,
laying out all of the
he's
mitzvahs.
going out all mitzvahs. So once you complete the book, then you will no longer be ashamed when you look at any mitzvah because you'll know, what was that?
Shouldn't be at the end.
It's aspirational.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the pasuk is aspirational. Then,
Yeah.
if you get it at the end,
Right.
then it's not then. Yeah. So, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What were you saying?
Yeah, so what would like, I guess the Havamina mean that one would be ashamed?
So according to the pshat is that if you look at a mitzvah, if you know that something is a mitzvah and you don't know any of the halachos about it, then you're ashamed either because you can't do it properly or because you just lack knowledge of God's mitzvahs.
Yeah.
For example, I came across an obscure mitzvah today, which we were probably astonished by this when we went through it. It's in this week's parsha. There's a lo saseh for a kohen to put frankincense and oil on the mincha of a sota. Okay, not okay. So here's the thing, though. But even if you knew it from Menachos, like I would have thought it's just one of the halachos about the sota. Not that a kohen gets malchus if he puts oil on. It's just like it's like it's embarrassing. I don't know more than 613 mitzvahs. Like not that I'm going to be doing that one. That's one of the Taryag mitzvahs.
Oh.
It's a lo saseh,
Yeah.
del raisa. Yeah.
Yeah, my go-to example of this is the law taking a collateral from a widow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Was it-
Separate laws.
So
Yeah.
like taking
See,
it,
we're all
like-
embarrassed now.
As in like accepting it or like doing a deal where there's a collateral in it.
I think either of those. Yeah.
Not
No,
Taryag?
Isha. Yeah. Right. It's only for a woman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
For a woman to
A
take
widow.
oil.
No,
take
for a
it
widow,
on-
not a widower.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I just had to spin that joke into a halachic lesson. Yeah. Okay. All right. Odacha biyosher leva v'lamdi mishpatei tzizkacha.
Furthermore? Nope.
No, that would be with an ayin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that.
I always like forget.
From hoda'a, modim.
Grateful.
Yeah. So I will. So modim can either mean praise or thanks or acknowledge. Okay. So I will, or I acknowledge. Let's say I praise, thanks, acknowledge you.
Thanks.
Sorry. What? Oh, thank. Sorry. Yeah.
Just because you said it and
Yeah.
wrote it.
Odecha biyosher levav.
With a
The straightness of a heart.
We have uprightness of heart.
uprightness.
All right. Belamdi mishpatei tzidkacha. Yeah. I think so. I think I don't. This is a weird conjugation. I think it's when I learn. I don't know, but Lumdi, when I learn the judgments of your righteousness.
Learning.
You could say learning. Yeah, I could be learning, but it's the Lumdi.
Like when I am learning.
When I am learning. Yeah. Okay, I can say
When
I
learn
learn means that.
Yeah.
Well, but I think learn works better with praise in the tenses, though. No, I praise you when I learn, not I praise you when I am learning. Well,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And last one, eskukecha eshmor al tazvini admo. This is another. This is not like good grammar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your statutes I will guard. I will not abandon them.
No, al tazvini.
Do not abandon me.
Do not abandon me.
Greatly.
Until
Very
Great,
much.
very much lead. Yeah, bigly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very. Let's say exceedingly, just to make it just to.
That reminds me
Yeah.
of when one of another reply Moserism is like if he would say oh, it's my old good.
Yeah.
Old good.
So
Yeah.
just in terms of how to read that last,
Yeah,
like Al-Tazvini Amod,
yeah.
is that don't do a lot of abandonment? Or is that
This is gonna be part of the question.
Yeah,
Some even say it
yeah,
means
yeah.
don't abandon me forever.
Oh.
Is there? Hold on a second.
yeah.
No, that's what I mean. Never mind.
There's a
Yeah.
talk about the question. The other way to read it would be like very much you should not do this.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
There's degrees of being abandoned.
Yes, and this is saying like I don't want the nth degree. Now, one more move that's made. Okay, since we're treating this as for now, our experimental method is to treat this as its own perek. Do you see a pivot?
In only these 8%.
Only in these pesukim, yeah, within these pesukim.
5.
4 to 5. In between 4 and 5.
In between 4 and 5, yeah, I think that's a clear pivot. Well, now, how would you characterize? Why are you saying there's a pivot there?
So one is the first part is talking about a group of people, and then the second part is talking about like David's relationship to how he relates to God.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So I think I mean we could categorize those in different ways. Second half is clearly David talking about himself. First 4 pesukim seem to be talking about another group or something abstract. Yeah. So our task will be to, for next time, understand what the main idea is, right, and what the pivot move is, and then learn it in a way where we can ignore all the particulars and still get an idea, and then see if there are like nuances that are brought out when we scrutinize based on the definitions. Okay. Cool. All right. Good.
Well,
Good.
why are we saying the whole thing's alphabetical?
So Radak's move is that it's alphabetical to indicate that this is a very important mizmor, but we haven't seen an explanation for why he says that alphabetical indicates important. That's like he says that about all the alphabetical prokim.
Who was the Radak?
Radak was Rav David Kimchi,
Okay.
Spartak.
You like him. He's a big one of the.
By the way, if you look up,
I mean, I like some knowledge.
yeah. So that's all I'm saying. Yeah. So this is actually good to know here. David Kimchi, 1160 to 1235, known by the Hebrew acronym Radak, medieval rabbi, biblical commentator, philosopher, and grammarian. So he was Maimonidean, but he also was part of an epic family. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So his father was Rav Yosef Kimchi, okay, who also wrote commentaries, and his older brother was Rav Moshe Kimchi. And now here's the weird fact. Okay. Radak was born in 1160. Okay. Moshe Kimchi was born in 1127, which means that his older brother was 33 years older than him. Okay, and Rav Yosef Kimchi was born in 1105, which is crazy because it means that there was a greater age gap between the Radak and his older brother than than his older brother and his dad.
Wow.
And I think what happened was Yosef Kimchi died, so Yosef Kimchi died when the Radak was 10. So the Radak's Rebbe was his older brother, who also wrote a lot of commentaries. And this is also when we talk about I always talk about the fake Ibn Ezra and Mishlei, right? So in the standard Mikros Gedolos, the thing listed as Ibn Ezra is really Rav Moshe Kimchi. And the only reason that it says that it says Ibn Ezra is the very first Mikros Gedolos got it messed up, and all of them were mistaken after that. Until like very recently, so it's actually the Rav Moshe Kimchi, and then there is an Ibn Ezra commentary on Mishlei. It's just separately, and then in our Monday or in our morning Mishlei package, the Chukah, if you see Sefer Chukah, that's Rav Yosef Kimchi. Okay, so that's that. Yeah,
So
and then there's also
this Ramak problem.
Here's the hilarious one. I might have said this before also. I think in Sefer Daniel maybe. No, not Daniel. Some other book in Ksuvim, I think. Then it is another thing that is listed as an Ibn Ezra commentary, but it's actually Moshe Kimchi. And the obvious way you can tell is that there's an opening poem where the acrostic is Mem Shin He Kuf Mem Ches Yud. So unless he was like a real fanboy, then then it was. Yeah.
When did Ibn Ezra live?
Ibn Ezra was about 100 years earlier, I believe. Ibn Ezra was.
So he couldn't have known.
No, he couldn't have. Yeah.
Who was.
No.
There's some overlap.
Yeah, some overlap with Moshe Kimchi. Yeah. Good 30-ish years. Yeah.
Where's the name again?
Yeah. Well, he traveled all around. Yeah. So good family though, the Kimchis.
Right.
Yeah. Although if you ever try to look it up though on Google, you have to be very specific. Otherwise, you're just gonna get a bunch of pictures of kimchi. And fermented cabbage is not good at writing commentaries. Yeah.
Right.
Alrighty. All right. Good for tonight. Yay.